is not a good team. 21 games under 500. They've lost a bunch of games. They lost 2 or 3 to Cincinnati over the weekend. This is a crucial set for Washington. They've got to come away with another series win here, 2 out of 3 minimum, to be a game above 500. If they get all 3, that's great. But if you want to see new young management kind of take the plan as it was laid out, as it were laid out, and maybe tweak it a little bit to say, we didn't expect this, but we're here. Let's try to take advantage of it. I've said this many times as it relates to the Nationals and their business. They need something like this. Imagine if they're in, early October, if they're in a little bit of a wild card series as a 6 versus a 3, how exciting that would be, how unexpected it would be, and how good for the business it would be. I mean, to get some crowds, to get some excitement as we approach the end of the season. We'll see. Foster Griffin, though, just lights out amazing. Going back to the first start of 1 earned run or less came on June 5th against Arizona. One of his starts in which he actually took a loss was that ridiculous loss against San Francisco when they had a 6-0 lead and lost 11-10, giving up 10 runs in the 8th and in the 9th inning, 5 each in the 8th and the 9th. When they had a massive lead, he was on his way to winning his, at that point, well, he'd be 12-1 right now instead of 11-2. All right. So he's at the World Cup yesterday. I'll kind of take you through it chronologically here in a moment, but I just want to start with this. Number one is the scene is absolutely the thing. This is one person's opinion. First ever major soccer game I've ever been to. Obviously, for that to be the World Cup final in Jersey is pretty special. But I don't have a lot of perspective here. I don't have a lot of experience. So I understand some of you will eye roll during what I'm about to say, but I recognize that it's just my experience. All right. And I know it's flawed and I know it's limited. That aside, the overall scene and the environment is the thing for me. The Argentina fans are some of the most intense, loud, just pleasurable fans I've ever had the opportunity to be near. And I've been to some good sporting events, man, with some incredible fan bases. We talked about some of those when we did the bucket list segment on Friday. I mean, I'm going to tell you, being in Death Valley for an LSU game at night against Alabama, it's really hard to top that in anything that you'll ever see live in sports. It's hard to top a Penn State whiteout game against Michigan or Ohio State in Happy Valley. That is just an amazing scene to be a part of. But this yesterday was up there with all of those, up there with what we used to be as a football fan base, 30 years ago. How intense it was, how loud it was, how supportive it was, how impactful it was. Really the start, and it's not going to be the finish, but it could be the finish for me about being there yesterday, was Argentina's fan base. They sang, and they sang forever. They were singing in the parking lots. They were singing in Manhattan near the train station when I got back to getting onto my train last night to come home. I mean, they just never stopped singing. And it's loud and it's intense and they are together and they outnumbered the Spain fans. I tweeted out at early in the game like it was a 5-1 difference. It was 10-1. It was 10-1 Argentina fans over Spain fans. Walking around New York City all weekend long, it felt like 10-1 Argentina fans to Spain fans. And the Argentines are something else, man. They were happy. They were thrilled. Yeah, they were disappointed at the end, but they never stopped supporting. I thought about When you have a devastating loss in the U.S., there are times in which, if it's a great game, like at the end of a series, in hockey, at the end of a series in the NBA, sometimes more so in hockey, the home team, if they lose, they'll get a standing ovation for the incredible series or the incredible season that the team had. But more often than not, a devastating loss, the fan base is leaving. They're leaving quietly. They're leaving with anger, with disappointment. The Argentines just kept singing, and it was intense. Now, we were sitting in a section that was behind one of the goals. It was the goal in the first half where Spain, it was not the goal in which the goal was scored. That was at the other end. But Spain dominated much of the first half, and it was all on our end. It's kind of actually cool to watch soccer from that angle. Being behind the goalpost is a different perspective in football because you can kind of see the play developing. It's not my favorite in football. I mean, there's a reason the 50-yard line seats are, 4 times as expensive as behind the goalpost in soccer because it's such a massive field. There's so many players. There's so much space. I actually thought the view was better. But the number one takeaway for me was the scene, and the scene was mostly about Argentina's fans. It was really, by the way, 2 hours we got there before the game kicked because of the concerns about security and getting in and the whole thing. It actually went pretty well. I think they did a really good job from my perspective of getting you in. You had to do a lot of walking and a lot of circling around different security spots, making sure that you had, your tickets and et cetera, and clearing security with all of your metal objects. But once I got into the stadium, it was about 90 minutes before kickoff, and the stadium was, 9/10 filled 90 minutes before. And most of it was just Argentines singing and singing loudly. That was the best part of the whole game. I can't get over it. Like, that was a scene. You guys have been to sporting events. I've been to sporting events, and the special ones are memorable. And for us here, I don't know how many times I have to say that the 1982, the January 83 championship game at RFK Stadium is still the single most unbelievably intense, electric, bloodthirsty environment for a sports competition that I've ever been in, ever. There were a couple of Duke, Maryland games at Cole and even at Xfinity that approached it, but Skins Cowboys for, multiple decades in a row was always special at RFK, but that day in particular it stands out. It stands out for all the players. You've heard, Doc and Jake and Rigo and Joe and everybody talk about what that building was like. It was truly a lion's den. It was a snake pit of all time. And yesterday did not approach that. Yesterday was not the corporate crowd that some had told me it would be. There was an element to that, certainly, but most of that was in the suites, and we were not in a suite. We had lower level behind one of the goals. I thought they were really good seats. I liked them, and a lot of Argentines around us, but they were around lots of people everywhere. But it was not a corporate crowd. I've been to Super Bowls. This was not a Super Bowl crowd. It was loud, and look, the Spanish fans are more reserved. They're different. That was my exposure yesterday, my experience yesterday. But it was really, really a scene, and all of the pregame stuff was very. Apparently the rest of the world did not like the fact that there was a halftime show, Super Bowl-esque halftime show. It was hardly that from my perspective. It's always hard. I've been to Super Bowls. You don't get the same level of feeling about the halftime show when you're in the stadium that you do on TV. So I don't know how it played out on TV. It was not memorable necessarily for me sitting there. The pregame buildup and the national anthems and the players walking out on the field, that was something else. So, yeah, I'd start with the number one thing for me that I'll never forget from yesterday's experience was Argentina's fan base. It was really spectacular. And it was very loving, um, in a way in which, I don't know, this was their seventh World Cup. So maybe you get to the point where, it's not do or die, life or death to win or go home with a loss because they've experienced winning it before three times, including in the last World Cup. You can get to that point as a fan base where it's like, just appreciate what a great journey it is. And that's really what I thought the singing and the support and the love for this team, even after they lost, was about. It was about maybe an understanding that the journey is special. I mean, 2 years ago, when Washington made it to the NFC Championship game and lost 55-23 at the link against, arch rival Philadelphia, it's a terrible way for the season to end in the moment. But what a journey that season was. I mean, and for us, because it had been so long since we had been relevant in the sport, I mean, we're never going to forget that season. We're never going to forget Cincinnati on Monday night. We're never going to forget the Hail Mary against Chicago. We're never going to forget the comeback against Philadelphia. We're never going to forget the game against Atlanta in overtime. And we're certainly not going to forget Doink against Tampa or the unbelievable offensive display against the Lions in a playoff game on the road. And there just was a real sincere level of adoration for sure, but just overall respect for the journey, it seemed to me, with their fans. They were a pleasure to be around, to watch. They're happy the entire game. Like some of the calls, and I'm not going to get into great detail about some of the yellow cards and the way Argentina played the game versus the way Spain played the game. It was clearly an ass kicking, even though the score was only 1-0, but that's the nature of the sport. I mean, you never got this sense that anybody from Argentina cared about how they were being dominated. There was maybe a very minimal complaining or arguing about calls. I mean, that was interesting to me. It's like a bad call goes against them and they're singing and they're happy again because it's still, it was 0-0 too. 0-0 for those that don't understand soccer language. Yeah, that was number one for me. Now the game, the game itself, that's a different story. I'll get to that next. So I really enjoyed going to it yesterday. It was quite the scene. Biggest takeaway for me, it's not even close, is just the incredible passion and uniqueness of the passion from an American sports fan's perspective of the Argentina fans. Man, they were really, really spectacular. And they really took over not only that stadium yesterday, they took over Manhattan over the weekend. I mean, everywhere you went. And it's all Messi jerseys. I mean, what's the data? What's the data on how many? There's no chance anybody in the world has had more of his jerseys sold than Messi. I'm going to guess that that's true.
I'm going to side with you on this, and I'll research it, but I swear to God, you're right.
Yeah, it was an amazing, I think like of the 80,000 plus people that were there, I bet you 20,000 had Messi jerseys on. And more likely than not, 40 to 45,000 just had on Argentina jerseys in general. I actually like the dark blue jersey. If we're going to play the jersey game, I like the Messi. Is that the road jersey or the alt jersey that they wore against? Did they wear that against England? I like that jersey better than the white one that they were wearing yesterday. All right. About the game. So I love the experience. I love the Argentina fans. I love the, like I've always said, I am somebody that I don't like soccer, but I like the World Cup because of the stuff that I got to witness live yesterday, which I've been able to only sort of watch on TV. And it is so important. So in keeping with kind of viewing it as in football terms, this was the Kansas City Phillies Super Bowl from a few years ago without the points, obviously. But it was a defensive domination. And I know Spain has been that throughout the World Cup. I understand that. But I just wanted to see Messi touch the ball a few times. And they just had him bottled up. And the ball was so dominated in the Spain end, especially in the first half. And I know that Argentina's had these massive comebacks at the end, like against England, which was insane, like against Egypt, which was insane. I never got the sense it would happen again because it just didn't seem possible in watching that game. The domination statistically, it was 20 shots to 2. 20 to 2. The penalties, I didn't notice this during the game because I'm not a soccer, person. But in reading about the game and listening and watching some stuff early this morning, there's a lot of criticism of the Argentina strategy that they kind of came out and tried to be dirty. They played a thuggish kind of a game, trying to muck it up a little bit. And then there was the fight. They called it a fight. I mean, it wasn't much of a fight at the end. I know that there aren't a lot of fights. There's more sort of the fake, rolling around stuff on the field. But I didn't think that was like such a big deal from watching it live or in the stadium or watching it afterwards. The pushing and it was just some pushing and shoving. I mean, I think we as American fans have seen some melee. So we know the difference between some pushing and shoving and a melee. That was not a melee. I know that Argentina is being criticized for the way they played yesterday, the fact that they couldn't figure out a way to get Messi the ball. I don't know. Spain just looked a million times better to me. The expected goal stat, which I think is an interesting one, which is, an analytic and advanced number that gives you based on the way the game was played, what the final score should have been, 2.29 to 0.22. That is utter domination. Possession 65 to 35, and then you had the 20 to 2 overall shots. In terms of shots on goal, 12 to 0. I actually thought that Argentina had one in the extra time. So it was. Remember when Kansas City did not get into Philadelphia territory in that Super Bowl until late in the third quarter? That's kind of what this was. It was utter defensive domination. And I can appreciate that soccer fans appreciate great defense and a great defensive team like Spain. Like I'm wondering, is this the equivalent Spain's run? The actual goalie faced 10 shots total in the entire tournament. Is this the equivalent of the 85 Bears defensively? I don't know. The 85 Bears had a little bit more style. There was a little bit more excitement in the way they played defense. Spain, I think it's more methodical, whatever. It's hard to compare the two sports. But this was domination. I mean, even I could recognize that being there. Again, sitting with all these Argentinians, they didn't seem to really feel the same way. And they know the game better than I do. Sometimes I'm more interested in the singing and the rejoicing over this kind of event that lasts 2 hours and there's a lot of dancing. It's just great. It's great to be there and watch it. Sometimes I wonder if they're actually even paying attention to the game, but they are. They are. This game was boring, though, flat out. From my standpoint, it was boring. All the pregame, all the pomp and circumstance and the drama and the incredible, colors and pageantry and singing and the crowd. And then the game started. And good God, it was, insomnia cure for much of it. For me, I know for soccer people, there's an appreciation for what Spain did defensively in that game. But it was not a game filled with a lot of action. There is a lot of, Spain had a lot of opportunities in that first. The goalie for Argentina was insane. That goalie was the guy that kept him in it. Faced 20 shots. They only scored once, and it was on a putback, at 11-10 after that second yellow card. I don't know. The replays I can't tell on the replays in the stadium at the yellow cards. There were 4 of them, 2 on one player that resulted in a red card, and this 11-10. Can I ask you a question, Max? Because you know a little bit more about this than I do. In a game of that magnitude, when a guy gets a yellow card, why don't you just sub for him so there's no risk of being down 11-10?
It's a great question that I wish I had.
I know the player's
to.
a really good player that got the yellow card, and you don't want to pull your best players. But isn't the risk of playing one man down just too great?
You would think, but it comes down to the coach's decision on if, that player is either playing risky enough or just on the line, or if he needs to get subbed out to risk putting your team down a man. It really is just a cost to benefit ratio, really, that gets worked out in the coach's head, at least from my understanding of it.
I don't think I've seen a lot of that during this World Cup when a guy gets a yellow card and he gets, like, I don't know, in a game like yesterday, I kind of felt like in watching it, Argentina's best chance, and I know they've had these amazing comebacks at the end, and maybe some of them have been, there's conspiracy theories, the refs, the whole thing, I don't know. But to me, their best chance was to get into penalty kicks.
Yeah, they were saying the exact same thing on the broadcast too. They were saying Argentina, Spain needs to get this done in extra time, and they know that because they know if it goes to PKs, Argentina's probably going to take it.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have probably taken it or not, but that was it seemed like their best chance. And so playing 11-on-11 gives you the best chance of getting to penalty kicks. Because 11-10, I know that there have been games, and the U.S. survived, down 11-10 in one of the group stage games, and so I understand that it's not like this. It's not like playing 5-on-4 in basketball. It's not like playing 11-on-10 in football. It's a massive field. It's hard to score. If you probably had a 2-man advantage, it's probably hard to score. But it's easier than if it's 11-on-11. And what do I know? I was kind of hoping to get to penalty kicks, and I was hoping it would be on our end because that would have been pretty cool to see. But it didn't get there. And, overall, I thought, it was a boring game from an American sports fan's perspective, this American sports fan's perspective. but I also understood how good Spain was defensively. And, compared to the game that they played against France, that was pretty boring too. I don't think they had anywhere near the number of chances they had against France like they did against Argentina. The goalie made a lot of saves that were sort of right at him. So, but then in the second half, he made a lot of saves that were difficult to make. In terms of like just players that stood out, Messi, for anybody that's a sports fan and can tell the difference between, a hockey puck and a soccer ball, you do notice, the skill level is off the charts and different. I also think that guy Yamal looks different. The 19-year-old that wears number 19. He looks different with the ball. Also, the number 24, who my nephew said plays for Chelsea, I think, he stands out as really good. And there are a couple of other players. But Messi and Yamal are the two that really, I know that that's obvious, but, if you didn't tell me who are the best players and I didn't know anything about them, I think Messi with the ball and Yamal stand out. They're just, the way they catch passes, too, where just basically lays on their foot in catching it is, I mean, it's that part of it is impressive. And yeah, all right. I have some other notes here I'll get to, but I did want to open it up for calls, 301-230-0980. I think more than yesterday's game, you can weigh in on yesterday's game if you'd like. But now that it's over, we've had these 5 or 6 weeks of, World Cup in our country. And by all accounts, especially by foreign accounts, we did it well. We did everything well. I don't think they liked the halftime show yesterday. They didn't want to Super Bowl-ize it. But other than that, it seemed that the rest of the world, and there was a lot of coming into this skepticism, it seemed that the rest of the world really thinks that the U.S. did a phenomenal job hosting. The U.S., Mexico, and Canada. North America did an exceptional job hosting this World Cup. And it was, by all accounts, and I'm nowhere near a historian, but people that are say this was one of the more memorable World Cups because the biggest stars, Mbappe, who got the Golden Boot award over Messi, and Haaland and Messi and Yamal and Mbappe and even Ronaldo. Remember, after he didn't score a goal and they were wondering about benching him after that first game in group stage, and then he comes back with 2 goals in that second game. All of the stars played great. There were incredible games and incredible, almost unprecedented comebacks. Argentina twice in this thing. I will just mention the third place game, which I didn't see any of on Saturday, that England won 6-4 over France. You and I looked this up a few weeks ago in terms of highest scoring games, and I was wondering that's the third highest scoring game in World Cup history, 10 goals, 6-4 in a third place game. I saw somebody, I'm forgetting, it might have been Albert Breer. Maybe not. I don't know. Tweeted out, Roger Goodell's paying attention to this third place game. Yeah. Can the NFC championship loser against the AFC championship loser a week later, a week before the Super Bowl? Who wants that? I don't think anybody does. But if it were a game that got played, it would draw an outrageous television number. But you'd never get the players to do it. You'd have so many you'd barely be able to field a team. Each team would have 40 players on the injury report. You'd be signing players off the practice squad. Nobody's going to play in a game that means nothing and risk it. It'd be a preseason game. Doesn't mean that they won't do it at some point. All right, 301-230-0980. React to the game if you'd like. But I think the bigger question is, what does this experience mean for the popularity of soccer in our country? There are a lot of people making big proclamations about what it will mean. What do you think it means? Was this a one-off? You like the World Cup? You don't like soccer? Tell me when the next one is in 4 years and, when it starts. Or are you going to watch more soccer? Are you going to watch more Bundesliga, Premier League, La Liga, Italian A, all these other leagues, MLS, which, uh, I was told by people who really like this sport that I am close with and spent the weekend with, yeah, the MLS is still way down the list. Like even Pulisic, the best player, plays for AC Milan. I didn't know that before yesterday or before the weekend. And he's like just an okay player. All right. Phone lines open. World Cup reaction. Anything on the game yesterday, but big picture, where does it go from here? Is this the spark that turns America into a soccer-loving country? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. Will this World Cup be the legitimate once and for all spark that results in America falling in love with soccer? 301-230-0980. You can also weigh in on yesterday's game. By the way, on the big, macro question about what this will do, to be fair, like, I don't even know how to define that quantitatively. Is it attendance? Is it ratings? Is it merchandise? Like, what is it? Is it, I don't know. Because it's also different, right? We're not talking about the MLS, just the MLS. We're talking about all of these other much better products, soccer products, La Liga, Premier League, Bundesliga, etc. But I think as sports fans, I think we'll know if it happens. I think we'll know it if it actually starts to become important, outsized importance in this country, like the other sports are. Like, if the conversation, among sports fans in any environment, it could be in this environment, it could be, bloggers, sports websites, whatever. If it becomes more soccer, as much soccer as it is Major League Baseball or the NBA. Let's be honest, it's never going to top football in this country, American football, the NFL or college. These are the two passions for American sports fans that are so far ahead of everything else in terms of the numbers, that we'd be talking about 50 to 100 years from now for that kind of a change. But, if we're talking about baseball or basketball or hockey or anything else, and here's the thing, like I say, we'll know it if it's happening. That means that, I come in here one day, taking calls on the Real Madrid Barcelona game from the La Liga match the day before, because it was a significant match in the standings, or an MLS game between Miami and, DC United or whatever. My personal opinion is I don't see it becoming anything close to that. I could see more people being interested in international soccer events moving forward, the Euros, the qualifying CONCACAF stuff with the U.S. men's soccer team. I could see those big events getting more attention. World Cup, of course, but some of the others getting more and more attention. But I don't see, the environment that I'm in, that in November or even March or whenever these seasons are played, I don't even know, coming in here and doing an hour on Real Madrid against, whatever. I don't even know the other teams in La Liga. Those two teams are in La Liga, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually very curious. Is Real Madrid now the number one brand in soccer? Or is it somebody else?
I mean, do you know that Madrid or Barca are kind of the two, at least the big ones in La Liga? But if you want to go European Premier League, that would also, like, Man City, Man U,
right?
Chelsea's big, like
Liverpool.
Liverpool. You could really make the case for a lot of them.
Yeah, I do think that there is. I do think there's a level. That's the kind of. I'd actually like. Yesterday's experience was certainly intriguing enough that I think the next soccer game, if I ever go to another one, would be one of those big league games, where you've got the major supporters of each of the two teams, Chelsea, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man U, Man City versus whatever. Like, one of those things would be cool to go to. Anyway, Max, what is my overall takeaway is I enjoy the World Cup. I do. I've enjoyed the Euros to a certain degree. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed my experience yesterday. The game was not for me necessarily with that little of scoring and action. And I don't see it becoming a major part of mainstream American sports off of this experience. I think we'll tune back in 4 years from now again, and we'll be into it. Maybe not as into it because it won't be here. But I think that that's where the interest lies in these major international events, and I think it stays there primarily, maybe with an increase, an incremental jump in some of the international competitions. But I don't see the MLS being a massive beneficiary off of this. Personally, I don't.
No.
Max, what do you think?
I don't see the MLS being a big benefactor of this either. But what I will say is the future of soccer, I think, is very bright in this area, in this, this country, because a lot of parents, and I noticed this as I was growing up playing football, a lot of parents started kind of pivoting their kids to other sports, and soccer was a big one of them. Like my little cousin, like I've long said he'd be a really, really good football player, but he plays soccer. He plays it well. He plays travel, does all that stuff. So I think you're going to get a lot more kids doing that. So that I think is going to help the development. So maybe 10 years down the road, soccer in this country is going to look a lot different.
Atletico Madrid, Barcelona Athletic Club. These are some of the other teams. Real Madrid, Valencia. Yeah. Like to really be into it. Like if somebody, I have somebody in my life, his name shall remain nameless, who just for years has been Mr. Soccer. But I have this sense that there's a bit of a performative part of it. Because if I asked him to name all of the teams in La Liga or the Premier League, I got $2,000 that says he couldn't do it. And if you're an NFL fan, you can name not only all the teams, but the divisions they're in and the rivalries they have and their best players. All right. All right. Phone line's open, 301-230-0980. Let's start with Ian, because Ian's a big soccer guy, and we've had some reasonable soccer conversations with Ian over the last month plus. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, so in terms of the World Cup game, I thought it was really tough to watch. I thought that was a really boring final. If you go back 4 years ago, Argentina-France was one of the best finals we've ever had. I think it was 4-3, and then they tied it and went to penalty kicks, and I thought that was an outstanding final. Spain is a really tough watch. I love their players and their game, but their marriage to possession and triangles, it's really tough. I don't even have a good analogy, but it's tough to watch sometimes. And they are the best team, and they've proven it in multiple competitions through multiple iterations. And as a country, Spain is just phenomenal in their development of athletes, whether it's tennis, soccer, basketball, etc. So I thought the final was boring. In terms of your next question, I don't ever see anything eclipsing football. But Kevin, you know this. If you take calls on hockey or baseball, you're probably going to get less interaction than you would if you did the backup tight end conversation on minicamp. And I think that's okay. I reject this notion that we always have to do a referendum on soccer. There are people who are tennis fans. There are people who are tennis fans who only watch the majors. There's golf fans, and then there are golf fans who only watch the majors. It's okay to just like the Champions League final, the World Cup, and the Euro Cup. That's okay. I really dislike how soccer fans are performative and try to tell people you have to love this. Focus on yourself. I like sports that you don't like, Kevin, and vice versa. You love college regular season basketball. So do I. But 99% of this country only watches college basketball for 2 weeks a year. And that's it. And I think that's okay. I just wish every 4 years we didn't have to do a referendum on soccer.
That's fine. But I think the reason that that it happens is because for 50 years, the world's been telling us this is the greatest game. And inside this country, we've been told this is going to be the year. This is going to be the league. This is going to be the event. And so that's why we have this conversation. The other sports that you're talking about, we've never had that kind of big picture conversation because this is the only sport that exists that is so massively popular everywhere else in the world except for here.
Yeah, I get that. And I wish the world didn't do it. I wish everybody didn't do that. But to go back to one thing you said, I think in 10 years, 15 years, as time goes on, I think soccer will be at the same level of baseball and hockey. I don't see it getting anywhere near football. Then there's a big drop down to basketball. And then I think soccer, hockey, baseball will be on the same level.
Yeah, the basketball thing too, because that is arguably, I think, other maybe cricket, somebody would say, but it's the second most popular world sport.
It
and
is
the
the
NBA in
most popular
particular,
sport, yeah.
Yeah, is I have one question for you, and that is, would France, Argentina would that have been a much more fun game to watch, much more wide open, more scoring? Like, wasn't how did France get so bottled up by Spain? I thought that they were so beyond everybody else from an offensive skill standpoint.
Yeah, I don't gamble on sports, but I would have bet my house that France would have beaten Spain. And it shows you how incredible Spain's defense is. I think France, anybody would have been a good final. Argentina, I think, and you alluded to this, is kind of late comeback their games all through the 4 knockout stages. I would have loved to have seen France, England in a non-third place game. I think it obviously wouldn't have been 6-4, but I think that would have been more wide open. I think France is the most enjoyable team for the casual sports fan, whether they're American or foreign.
Right. I felt that way watching them during the thing.
Yeah, they have the 3 best offensive players in the world, 3 of them. And so they were fun. Norway was fun, but Spain's probably going to be a front runner for the next Euro Cup, and their brand of soccer is very slow and methodical.
And yet they have this incredibly young, dynamic offensive star. So,
yes, but even he is throttled a little bit when he's playing there. If you watch him play for his club, they play.
Who does he play for again?
At Barcelona.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got to run. Thanks for that. Good insight from my end during the World Cup. All right. Skip, Billy, Dominic, Johnny, Anthony, Paulie, everybody stay there. Question. What's this going to do for soccer, this World Cup experience that I think most of us attempted to, watch. And I think many of us, I put myself into this group, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the last 5-6 weeks. I think the timing of it's perfect too. But I don't see this becoming something where we look back and say the 2026 World Cup in North America brought the United States to where the rest of the world is on soccer. I don't see that happening. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. Window Nation's got a really good sale going on between now and the end of the month, so you've got about 11 days to take advantage of it. It is 50% off of everything they sell, 50% off of every window style. They have over 1,500 to choose from. So no matter what you choose, you're going to pay half price. It starts there. Part two is if you choose to finance your purchase, you don't have to put any money down. You don't have to make any monthly payments, and they won't charge you interest for 2 full years. That means by the time you start paying for those windows in 2028, you start paying half price and you had 2 years worth of free windows. And with those windows come the benefits of lower utility bills. If you've got older windows, you should replace them. Too much cool air is leaving your home in the summertime, and too much warm air is leaving it in the wintertime. It keeps your thermostat running, and you don't want that. Call Window Nation today at 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. All I ask really is that if you've been thinking about this, have them come out to your house free of charge, no risk, no obligation, no pressure, and give you an estimate. They'll write up a quote, they'll leave you with that quote, and then they'll leave you alone. But do something before the end of the month so you get the 50% off and pay nothing for 2 full years. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. All right, we are taking World Cup calls. You can weigh in on the game yesterday. I've given my 2 cents. I was there yesterday. It was a pretty cool thing to go to. I'm not going to lie to you. Am I going to put that in my all-time top 5? It's hard to beat some of the college venues and pro venues in this town, but it was something certainly that was memorable in terms of the build-up to the game and to the start of the game. And the Argentina fans will be a memory that I'll never, ever, hopefully, lose. They were really incredibly interesting to watch throughout. And then after the game as well. The game itself, yeah. Now, the big question is, what does this World Cup do in terms of interest in soccer in this country? Will this be the World Cup, the once and for all major spark to making America fall in love with soccer? 301-230-0980. Skip, go ahead.
Points. First of all, the World Cup was spectacular as a whole. Yesterday's game was a snooze, but previous games, including the third place game, was a joy to watch.
I didn't watch that.
But in terms of just if you really like offensive soccer, it was the best. Right. Then you had the Argentina comebacks, several of them in the late stages of the game. Those were just phenomenal. And then you had the England versus Mexico. That scene was just unbelievable.
That may have been my favorite of the entire thing. The Mexican crowd in Azteca Stadium for that game, and it was a great game.
And then my second point is, I think the future, in large part, the immediate future, because we can talk about the long term, decades, but I'm saying next 5 to 10 years is dependent on the success of the American team. If the American team can actually really become a world power, I think that'll make a huge difference, because then we'll be interested not only in the World Cup, but in their performance, in between the World Cups, and it'll generate a lot of, buzz for soccer in America. I mean, let's say if they become top 5 and they're really competitive, which they are not and haven't really been, with the Spains and Frances and England and Argentina, I think that would be a huge boost. I don't think it's going to make soccer, on the level even of college football or anything like that. But, it could put it in maybe the top 5 of sports or the top 4. But we'll see how that turns out, because I don't know if the American team is going to be ever in the top 5. My final point, unfortunately, is a negative one about the Argentina fans. Now, I know you had a good experience with them, but there are several incidents of racism by those fans, including there was one incident in Atlanta where a fan got into it with a black Atlanta police, and got the beat down of his life, which which has gone very viral. And I mean, I'm talking about racist slurs because Argentina has a history. Like, if you look at the team, there are no black players. They're the only team in South America with 0 black players. And Argentina itself has like 1%, less than 1% of the population is of African descent. And they had a very racist history. You can look it up. But the fans tend to reflect some of that. I'm not saying all the fans are like that, but there's a lot of incidents. Somebody making a monkey face at a social media influencer got a lot of viral exposure. Mm-hmm. So there are these incidents with our Argentina fans.
I am certainly look. I am certainly familiar beyond sports with racism and Argentina's history. And I mean, let's face it, a lot of the Nazis found their way to Argentina for some reason after World War II, and into the other countries in South America as well. Skip, it's like you've listened to this show for a long time. You've been a caller for a long time. I've always enjoyed some of the conversation of race and sports coming together. This isn't one that came to mind for me. Like, this isn't, even like in recent years, something like Colin Kaepernick or, if we had been doing shows during the 60s, my God, obviously Tommy Smith, John Carlos, Ali in the draft. I mean, those were biggies, between sort of race and sports coming together.
Top of the news, but it's a thing. I'm saying it's an undercurrent.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, I'm not knocking you for choosing to bring it into the conversation. It just didn't even occur to me to bring it into the conversation as far as yesterday and the overall largesse of the World Cup. Where, look, Spain is an interesting country too. I mean, I've traveled to a lot of these places. I'm sure you have too, and a lot of our callers have. It's always amazing to see how many countries really do feel a lot more racist than the experience that we have here. But yeah, no, I'm familiar with Argentinians. I did not witness or observe any of that yesterday at the game. And I did not know about the incident in Atlanta. I did not. Thank you, Skip,
okay.
As always. Johnny in DC. Johnny, go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. How are you?
I am well, Johnny.
Good. I do agree with your previous callers as far as the game. It was boring. And the next thing that I would like to mention is that the coach, Argentinian's coach, should have known better that they're going to shut down Messi. It doesn't look like that he had another plan B, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that it was given that they're going to shut down Messi. If you know that, what is your alternative to make the game competitive or to win the game? As far as what it's going to do for future soccer in the United States, I think, remember, Messi was 18 years old when he surfaced in a World Cup game. And now we had another one at the age of 19. And if you go back, Pele. So I'm very optimistic that there will be somebody at that age that will come for United States, because you have to have one good player, more than good player, that makes a difference in each game. Look at how many goals that Messi scored and number 10 France scored, and you have to have that guy in order to be more relevant in a World Cup game. So I'm hoping in the next 4 years, kids that are 14, 13 right now will develop to that point, and hopefully we'll get one of those Messi's and Pele's kind of players in the future. That is, I didn't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, look, that is kind of the point Skip made too, but I think you made it with another addition to it, and that is, if the U.S. men's team became a true world power with a true superstar on the team, that could be a difference maker. There's no doubt. Like, what if there was a Messi level player? And I know that most people say he's the GOAT. So let's just take a, Mbappe level player, like a world superstar, and the rest of the world's wearing this dude's jersey, in every other country. And the U.S. men, because of that, became a world power, a top 3, top 4, top 5 FIFA rankings team, and they were a legitimate threat to win a World Cup. Yeah, I think that would be really interesting. It is, it is always a help, in any sport, including football now, when your team is good, but you also have a superstar on the team. In the NFL or in football in general, it helps if that player is a quarterback. Thank you, Johnny. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll do another segment of calls. Anthony, Paulie, Billy, hold. I'll get to you, I promise. Anybody else that's on hold, we'll get it in. But World Cup is over. I was there yesterday. It was not what I would call the most thrilling sporting event I've ever been to in terms of the game. Everything else, though, was incredibly memorable. And I'll keep saying it. The Argentina fan base was the thing that I'll remember the most about it. They took over New York. They took over that stadium. I think it was 10-1. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Of the 80,000 people in there, 1 out of 4 were wearing a Messi jersey. 2 out of 4, maybe 3 out of 4 had an Argentina jersey on of some sort. It was a home game for them. It really felt like that. All right, Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. Yes, I did see the RG3 tweet, whatever he was doing, talking about some Netflix. God almighty, that would be so entertaining. Please, I'm telling you, going back 12 years, I've been saying the 30 for 30 when the 30 for 30 was a big thing. But now the Netflix documentary on what happened here, 2012, 2013, et cetera, will be wild for sure. But I don't know if he was being serious. I don't think he was about it, actually anybody having interest in it. Certainly our market would have some interest in it. It would not end up very favorable for him if people actually, were interviewed that were close to the situation and spoke honestly. Our soccer talk today on the Team 980 is presented by Xfinity. Score the most reliable Wi-Fi, one price, 5 years, guaranteed. Xfinity, imagine that. All right, 301-230-0980. We'll do one more segment of calls on the soccer. I was there yesterday in Jersey. Beautiful day. I mean, thank God the weather cleared. It poured. Did you see any of the social media videos of, especially downtown in New York, the flooding on Saturday? It was a deluge Saturday. Thank God that the game wasn't played in that kind of weather. That would have been a disaster, but it cleared up. It was a beautiful day. I really enjoyed the experience. I probably wouldn't put it like top 5 sporting events I've ever been to. But the game itself was forgettable for sure. The big picture question at 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980 is this World Cup experience that we've had over the last month, is this going to be the thing that sparks, a real rise in soccer interest in this country? Are we going to all of a sudden fall in love with soccer? And as I said earlier, I wouldn't even know how to measure that like right now, because there's so many different ways things get measured versus 5-10 years ago. I think we'd know it if we were living it. I don't see it personally becoming, this rage in the U.S. I don't. It'll never, ever come close to football the way we talk about, the way we feel about American football, both pro and college. I'm talking about, nationally. College football's not big here, but college football is bigger in the South and in the Midwest, in some places than the NFL is. Could it be something that, becomes a part of the daily conversation? I don't see it becoming that, except for big international events. I don't. Let's go to Anthony. Anthony, thanks as always for holding. Go ahead.
So, Kevin, back in the 70s, I was in middle school off Silver Hill Road and Brooks Drive. Feeder school in the Shoe Guard. I can't remember the name. G-Garden Shoe Guard. I can't remember the name of it. But I'm out there playing soccer, and I'm getting a concussion. Yeah. I remember listening to Ken Beatrice talk about Johan Cruyff and the Diplomats. So this is how long they've been trying to elevate soccer into this country. Anything is possible, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
I think both of us will be long gone before soccer finally takes a foothold here. I just don't see it happening.
I don't either.
For one, although you get more coverage than we did back then, the coverage still isn't enough to, kids play soccer in youth leagues and for recess and things like that, but they still don't have access to actually watch a majority of the games. Therefore, the exposure is still limited. So
actually, Anthony, a lot of those leagues are televised. I mean, the Premier League's a big deal on NBC and Peacock, but I understand what you're saying. Look, you and I are basically from the same era, and I played soccer as a kid, and my good friends who played soccer, one of my good friends from high school is still to this day the all-time leading scorer at the University of Virginia. He was a National Player of the Year. He was a phenomenal athlete. He could have played college basketball or college football had he chosen that. But he didn't watch it. He played it. He watched the NFL and college basketball and the NBA. That's what he watched and consumed as an American sports fan, even though he played soccer at a high level. And I think that's the way it's always been. You know, soccer is always the first game they roll a ball out because it's easy. You roll the ball out, you run around, you kick it, and it's easy for kids to play. But on Sundays, Saturdays, we're watching football. That's the way it's always been. And I think that's for you and me, for our expected rest of our lives, that's the way it's going to be. I agree with you.
And
anything else?
Before I go, as I want to help program the show, I got an idea for you to kick around at a later.
I'm writing it down.
Since it's that time of the year. There's a new rule in the NFL. You can steal one player from each team, regardless of salary cap implication. One player only. Who do you want?
Myles Garrett, welcome.
Oh, I thought you were Max picked that up faster than I did. I mean, I thought you were specifically saying that there was a new rule. I thought you were saying you're about to tell me about this new rule. Okay. I think it's still I mean, I don't have anybody on my team right now, right?
No. You have your current team in place.
Oh, Washington right now?
We get to steal one guy.
You get to steal one player from any team in the league.
Aaron Donald when he comes back.
Player?
Not Aaron Donald. I think Myles Garrett's still the answer to that.
Yeah. One of the two.
Myles Garrett's like 2 to 3 great defensive players on one team. Who would you pick, Anthony?
No, it was Myles Garrett. That was the first name that came to mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that would be it for me.
You take into account who you have on your team, so we don't need a quarterback. So we're not stealing one of those.
Let me just tell you, number 2 for me would be Justin Jefferson.
Got Jamar?
I don't know. Either.
I'd go Justin Jefferson.
One of the two.
All right. Thanks, Anthony. That's a good topic, though. I like that one. Write that one down, Max, please. We've got some.
It's in the notes.
We do have some dog days ahead of us. And now without any World Cup to talk about, wow. Billy in Chantilly, who was a soccer. I mean, this guy was just literally he was unstoppable as a 6th grader at some elementary school in Northern Virginia. Go ahead, Billy.
Billy played at the Chantilly Youth Association.
That's it.
Played in RFK Stadium proudly.
I know. You told me the story.
The answer to the question is Justin Jefferson. It's not even close. I mean, the guy would have 28 touchdowns.
He'd have a lot of touchdowns.
85 throwing to him.
He'd have a lot of touchdowns with 5 throwing to him.
You have 28, 30, probably. What's the record?
I don't know what it is, but he wouldn't have 28 or 30. Does Cooper Kupp have the record for touchdown catches? Who has the record for touchdown catches in a season?
It's got to be Jerry Rice, right?
Touchdown catches in a season. Receptions is
Randy
Kupp,
Moss 23.
Right? Who?
Randy Moss has 23.
Randy Moss 23.
Yeah, so he'd have so Justin Jefferson would have probably 31 with 85.
Yeah. Okay. Man, you are my all-time exaggerator on this show. I mean, to the point where it doesn't resemble anything
this is sports,
close to truth.
Sports broadcast, sports talk radio. Hyperbole works, Kevin. I like it.
Yeah, so you'd rather just be dishonest. Okay, tell me what soccer is going to do.
Look, the problem for us is that you've got a coach who's an Argentine national. He's getting $6 million a year, and the team stunk up the field. We need an American flavor to our American soccer team. Christian Pulisic, he skipped the CONCACAF Gold Cup for rest. That is not American exceptionalism. That is just not who we are as a nation. Where was Diego Luna? Diego Luna was filling it up in the CONCACAF. Well, we got an Argentine national.
I don't know who that is. You're going to have to tell me who that is.
Well, look him up. We got an Argentine national coaching our team. Of course, Diego Luna is the future of the team, and he didn't even play in one game. He's 22 years old. He could have got us set up for the 2030. We need an
Well, I think they were. I think they were
team.
thinking they could make a much deeper run in 2026, right?
How?
Well, I don't know. Going into the game with Belgium, they were favored against Belgium to get to the quarterfinals, the Elite Eight. I mean, our soccer people were talking about this is the best team we've ever had and the best chance to go way deep. That was a massively disappointing loss, right?
I've never been more disappointed in American soccer than that.
Okay. So you had higher expectations too. Next time, maybe they'll listen to you. Play Diego Luna. All right.
I'm glad you profited, Kevin. As far as the soccer itself goes, I don't have the shelf space. Okay. I got Commanders. I got Islanders hockey, National Hot Rod Association, motorsports, drag racing. And that's it. That's all I got shelf space.
That's what you got? Man, we learned something about Billy and Chantilly. Islanders fan.
I'll be back.
And hot rod racing. Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. It sounds like you actually do have – I think you've got the shelf space for it because you could replace soccer with calling into this show. And you could open up some shelf space by not calling into this show anymore. But I'd be disappointed if that happened.
New York, a great city, Kevin. Is that one of the best cities in the world? I'm glad you were there for a couple days.
Oh, I mean, it's every time I'm there, I'm like, I don't know why I didn't at some point have a chance to live up here just for a year. It never worked out professionally for anything. But yeah, no, it's
you would have fit right in too. You're
I don't know about that. I do love it up there though. Thanks, Billy. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie, go ahead.
Big guy, man. Hail to the W.
Hail to the W.
Let me start off with this, man. That RG3 thing, man, it's a TikTok thing. That's not nothing serious.
But that was him.
Yeah, it was him. But it's a thing people are doing on TikTok and social media with the Netflix, series type. Who would your own Netflix documentary be? If anything, he took shots at your boys, the Sheehan.
Well, I know that. Of course.
That's all.
He's been doing that for a while.
That's the real thing out of it. Right. But anyways, this whole soccer thing, man, I ain't watching now one bit of this soccer thing live. Anything I've seen was on Sports Center.
Yeah.
It's like watching baseball. I'll go to Sports Center to see the highlights, unless it's my favorite team. And the Americans was knocked out. The thing that's going to change it is, in my opinion, just my opinion, because I wasn't going to call about this until you threw that topic out there of what would change it. My thing is, it's going to have to start with college soccer, and it's going to have to start with NIL. That's it.
You mean in terms of the American men's team being great?
Yep. No, American men's team being great, and also us as Americans really caring about.
Oh, we're not watching college soccer. Come on, we don't even watch our professional soccer.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. That's my whole point. It's like they don't have to start throwing big NIL money at the soccer people at the college soccer level, so these kids that's younger than Matt, when they're growing up, they can see we can make this money playing soccer. Because right now you got just a certain demographic of people who are playing soccer.
But see, Paulie, I think that's actually look. I'm not. I think there is NIL money for soccer to start with. But I think that the most. Hold on. I'm not going to cut you off. Leave Paulie on. I want him to respond. I think the thing that this summer has been revealing for me is that the conversation that we've always had is, well, because soccer's not important, our best athletes don't play the sport. Our athletes are not the problem. We have plenty. I mean, we have 340 million people in this country. We certainly have. There aren't enough spots in college basketball, football programs, and certainly at the pro level to fit all of our best athletes. We have unbelievable athletes playing the sport. That's not the issue. And there are incentives to play this sport. It's beyond that. And beyond that, I can't get into a solution because it's not an area that I'm anywhere near expert in. But in reading a lot about it over the last few weeks, it would certainly seem like college soccer actually has to almost go away. We have to take our 11 and 12-year-olds and get them into the professional ranks as soon as possible. That's what the rest of the world does. They don't have college sports. So they identify these precocious, incredible, talented 8, 9, 10, and 11-year-olds, and then they pay for them to cultivate them, to train them, and they start playing professionally at the first moment possible. So they're playing against the best in the world. And if our best college players got big NIL money to go play college soccer, they're not playing against the best in the world. The elimination of college soccer probably would give this country a better chance, according to the people that are more expert in this than I. But anyway, go ahead.
How the experts in it, and this soccer program has been failing for years. That makes no sense to me. My thing is, my whole thing is about optics when it comes to kids. What do they see? What's exciting to them? This is not exciting. Like, we have to change. We have to come up with our own brand of play, which would probably have to be speed, speed and a lot of scoring attempts. And it has to start with the youth, man. And a lot of things with youth is optics. What they see, and now is about the money. So I disagree with that. You can't build it up through college. You have to build it up through college because that's where the NIL money is at right now. You know what I mean? So if you start building this up through the youth and through the colleges and through money, and then you change the style of play to something that's attractive to the eye, then that's how you build this up. And I'm talking about in the United States. You look at these other countries that's good in soccer, outside of like your France's or whatever. A lot of these countries are poor countries. And they're playing, they learn how to play the sport. They want to play the sport to better their lives and their families. Right.
By the way, I'm going to switch subjects on you real quickly because you mentioned something that I actually brought up in a conversation about soccer this weekend when I was there. I don't know enough about the sport, but where's the innovation offensively in the sports we follow? And let's just take football. They're constantly, the game is constantly changing, and there are innovations. And many of the offensive innovations in particular start at almost the high school and college level and then eventually make it to the NFL. But I wonder if there are true outside the box, Mike Leach types in soccer that would say, you know what, we're spreading this thing out and we're throwing it 70 times a game, whatever the equivalent to that is in soccer.
And that was my whole point when I said we'll have to come up with our own style of play.
Maybe,
that's appealing to the eye, and it has to be fast-paced.
But you got to be able to win with it.
And you have to have better athletes. You say we got good athletes in soccer. Well, look at Messi. He's 5 foot nothing, 100 and
I know. Yeah, well, right.
And he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. And you tell him, and we don't have a player that even measures up halfway to Messi. So yeah, man. To me, it starts with the youth, and it starts with money.
All right, see.
My opinion,
thanks, Max. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I would actually really like somebody to tweet me and tell me what the innovations in that sport have been, especially offensively. Like, where's the team that is the Paul Westhead of soccer? Paul Westhead famously coached the Lakers to a title with Magic in '80, and then took over Loyola Marymount, and they were averaging 120. They basically didn't guard anybody. They'd take the ball out of the net and just 10 seconds or less, they were shooting on the other end. Where's the run and shoot where's the spread? Where are some of these real amazing, contributions from an innovation standpoint to football in soccer? And would it result in, okay, this team is, they're not the best team, but they're the most entertaining team to watch because they lost the other day 9-7 or something like that. Like, maybe that's the calling card for the U.S. Paulie sort of led me into it, of trying a different way of playing. Maybe it's already been tried. Maybe you can't do it for some reason in soccer. I don't know. That offsides rule's a killer. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll finish it up with a couple more calls on this. Grant Paulson's going to jump on with me at noon to talk about the incredible pitching performance over his last 8 starts of Foster Griffin. We'll get into some of the football stuff, Brandon Ayuk stuff. The RG3 stuff I'm going to try to get to today, but I promise you, if we don't get to it today, all of you will have a chance to weigh in on tomorrow's show. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com. Exactly 8 weeks from today, we will be breaking down the season opener in Philadelphia. It'll be here before we know it. Can't get here fast enough. Yeah, true. Jason in Laurel. Jason, go ahead. Will the last 6 weeks of World Cup be the spark to make soccer something it's never been in the U.S.? Go ahead.
Thank you for so much for taking my call, Coach.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. Now, I'm a football guy, and I listen to you twice a day, every day for mostly your football takes, but I love that you're talking about this. I think soccer is a great sport. I find that most other Americans don't know really what they're looking at or how to watch, and I'm not trying to sound snobbish. I just don't think a lot of people understand the game. I also think it's a game that's terrible on TV. It is better to see live. You need a wider view so you can watch, the different positions and see the different matchups. What will turn it around? I think Paulie's somewhat right. We are front runners. We love stars. Nobody watched the WNBA till Caitlin Clark came along, right? I think you would need a number of high class, high profile stars on the U.S. team, and they'd have to win. And then that will get more and more. And the only way to do that really is with money and training the younger players that are on the under 17 and the under 15 and all those under national teams, which I just don't know that our teams are as funded as well as the rest of the world, which is kind of crazy because we're probably the richest nation in the world. But one last thing, I'll let you go, Kev. I would love RG3 talk, but that's never going to happen until you, Tom, and Chris Cooley are part of it. They can't do a 30-30 with RG3 without you, Chris, and Tom. It's just not possible. It won't be any good if you guys aren't part of it.
That's nice of you to say. I will tell you this. I think I've mentioned this before. But, there was a Gary Myers, longtime NFL writer, covered the Giants, the NFC East for years, has written a bunch of books on the Giants, in particular, the 86 Giants, Parcells, Belichick, LT. Always was a big fan of Gary. Gary actually co-authored the book that RG3 wrote, but then decided not to put out.
Not to release.
Yeah, I think part of the reason he didn't put it out is he had just gotten a job in television with ESPN, and I think it's somewhat probably smart for it not to have come out. But look, we'll get to that stuff, I promise. If not today, we'll get to it tomorrow. But
Coach, one of my all-time favorite moments of your show, all-time favorite moment was Chris Cooley doing a film breakdown, and he's like, I can't grade the offense because the quarterback play is so bad.
Yeah.
That's an all-time favorite moment of mine.
Yeah.
And that needs to be in the 30 for 30.
Well, what I was going to say is I was told that in the book we were this show was a part of his anger towards DC media, and it was probably part me. It was probably either a lot Tommy or a lot Cooley, one or the other. I'm not sure. He was not a
Tommy
big
was
fan
enamored with him at first.
I'm sorry.
He was enamored with him at first. Tommy was enamored with him at first.
Oh, well,
everybody
of course.
was.
That's Tommy. Look, I thought he was going to be a multi-time MVP winner when that rookie season. But wow. Narcissism at the highest levels, and just it's a bad combination when you're the smartest guy in the room, just ask you, and you're narcissistic. Bad combination. That was a tough few years, but man, it was provided some entertainment. And look, like I've always said about him, we'll always have 2012. That was a legitimate, unbelievable season. But there were major limitations in his game long before the injury in the Baltimore game, and then everything that happened in that Seattle game. But that Seattle playoff game will be one of the more infamous franchise moments, and it'll be debated until, forever. His perspective now from a guy who didn't want to tell his coach how hurt he was, whispering it to Trent, or saying it to Trent Williams on NFL Films, and having the doctor tell the coaches that it was the brace. His knee was fine. It wasn't the knee. It was the brace that had gotten out of whack a little bit and was making him limp around. Plus, it was the playoffs, people. Phillip Rivers played on a torn ACL in the AFC title game against the Patriots in 2007. All right. Thanks for the calls on this. Overall, let me just say, part of it is the timing, no doubt. Like, this could not have happened during football season, and for us to have, or for me anyway, to have indulged and embraced it the way I did. I enjoyed it for the most part. But again, it's more about the other stuff than it is the actual game itself. It's not my type of game, but there were moments in these games that were tremendous from a competition standpoint, from a thrilling standpoint. Some of the ends of these games, the Argentina comeback against Egypt, the Argentina comeback against England. I mean, some of these things we saw were unprecedented in the World Cup history of the event. I mean, we saw things that had never happened. So it was a memorable World Cup, not just for us, but for the rest of the world as well. But will this, for me, end up being the spark that makes me fall in love with soccer? No. Attending a World Cup final, is that no? It was memorable, but I pointed out the reasons it was memorable. It was not memorable because Dexter Manley tipped a ball up that Daryl Grant picked off and ran in for a touchdown to seal the game. It was not memorable because of a 4th and 1 Rigo run. It wasn't memorable for anything that happened in the game itself. For me anyway. And the greatest memories of some of the greatest sporting events we've all ever, thought were, top 10 sort of events, most of it had to do with the game itself. This one had to do with everything surrounding the game for me. Now, there were, certain moments, certain crowd environments that were great that are a part of the memory of certain games as well, but not like this. This, for me, the pregame, tremendous. The game, not so much. The postgame, tremendous. I mean, the Argentina fan base, the supporters of Argentina, that's what they call them, the supporters, they're still singing. I guarantee you they are singing. When I got to the train station last night to get on the train to come home, Argentina fans were in there singing. They lost the game. Man, they took over that place and the city the entire weekend. Grant Paulson will jump on with me next. What a pitching run Foster Griffin is on for the Nationals. We'll talk about that and a lot more after this. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. Wow. Grant, I'm just going through his recent tweets on X. You can follow Grant at Grant Paulson. And he just did a massive breakdown of the Odyssey. It's on my list to get to it this week. So I just started reading. Grant Paulson's with us, of course, from Grant and Danny on 106.7. The Fan, 2 to 6:30 every day. You can listen to Grant. And one of the reasons I reached out to him is because of the incredible run that Foster Griffin is on for the Nats. But, I mean, man, this is quite the write-up. This is a movie review right here. So you liked it, it sounds like.
Yeah, I have done nothing but think about and be inspired to read more about everything involving the Odyssey. And I don't mean necessarily the OG story as much as the Nolan project. It's just, it's unbelievable filmmaking. It really is. I mean, I'm a Christopher Nolan mark as it is. He can't miss with me. My favorite trilogy ever is the Batman trilogy, and I just think that will be kind of the bar for any kind of superhero movie forever. But that said, it was perfect. There I shouldn't say it was perfect. There are flaws like there are with any movie, I'm sure, and there are gripes that people have. But it was one of those movies that sticks with you, man. Like you leave and you're thinking about different scenes and how they're done. And what's amazing is, and without doing any spoilers, it's kind of difficult. But I'll tread lightly. Like there are scenes where you wonder how on earth is this shot by a guy who is so antithetical to like current filmmaking with CGI and stuff. And you find out like human beings are under the ground for minutes on end with like snorkeling equipment and straws so that they can breathe, under the sand. I mean, just the craziest things that are being done to film this. They're actually out on the water with pouring rain in storms, so that they don't have to have a green screen and things like that. Like it's next level. Every other director's competing for second right now.
Such a big Christopher Nolan fan. The irony for me though is that I was not a massive fan of Oppenheimer. I thought it was good. It was a disappointment for me. And I'm familiar with a lot of that because I'm interested in that time. And I thought it was a bit disjointed, but I think The Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar. I thought Dunkirk was brilliant. He's the GOAT, right? Currently he is at the top of his craft. And The Odyssey, for those of you who don't know, is Christopher Nolan's latest project on, obviously something that we all probably were forced to read as kids. All right, I'm going to go see it this week. For a friend of mine that saw it said, you cannot wait for this thing to come out and watch it at home. You have to watch it on the big screen. True?
So this is one of the points that I was kind of making in my breakdown is I find the general now incessant, you have to see this on the big screen. You have to see this on IMAX.
Right.
Thing like to be just exhausting and please get away from me. Like tickets are already $18. You want me to spend $26? And it's so hard. Like there aren't that many IMAX screens that are actually legitimate real IMAX anyway, right? So generally I hear that and I kind of scoff, but I'm telling you, this is the quintessential experience. It's shot for and in IMAX. Like if there's ever a time to wait and go to the Udvar Hazy and actually see it on the biggest IMAX in the area, like, if not now, when? This is it, man. So I saw it on what I call baby IMAX 70. I'm going to go see it at the Udvar Hazy probably sometime this week or next as a second showing. But, yeah, that's normally like every movie. The F1 movie that came out with Brad Pitt, which was very good, and the cinematography was cool. But, like, everyone's like, you got to see it in IMAX. I'm sure everything looks bigger in IMAX and better in IMAX.
Udvar Hazy, by the way, is the Air and Space in Virginia, right?
Yeah, so this is like it basically was a screen, I think, originally designed for like some kind of planetarium deal. But now they show films in like gigantic IMAX. And I think it's arguably the biggest. Maybe there's one in New York that's larger, but certainly in the tri-state area here, it's the superior way to watch it. So if you can, I've only seen 2 movies there. I saw Dark Knight there on opening weekend, which was amazing. And then I had to go see the Top Gun Maverick movie there as like a second showing. So I'm going to go back out there for this.
God, Jennifer Connelly was so good in that movie. All right. Let's move to the reason that I called you. So, like, I went through what yesterday was in the last 8 starts, and then I looked at, not that I thought, like, okay, he's actually a Cy Young candidate odds-wise, but I'm curious, before we get to why he's been so effective, how many more starts in a row would he have to have like this before he's in the conversation? I know the National League is loaded at the top with serious Cy Young candidates, but how far away from that do you think he is?
I think he's probably a tier below the legitimate candidates, not just statistically, but from a dominance standpoint. Like at his best, he's 7 innings of shutty or 1-run ball, and he's, 8 or 9 strikeouts a lot of nights. He doesn't have the club in the bag of the guys that will win this award just from a sheer swing and miss, whiff rate, stuff standpoint. But some of that is not even, something he can control. Like by the nature of being a fastball at 91, 92 and a 7-pitch pitcher, he just starts the race for the Cy Young a mile behind everybody else, basically, because it's not what people are looking for from a numbers standpoint. If you're looking for actual just efficiency of getting outs, whether you're looking at ERA or FIP or things like that, he's going to grade out pretty favorably. He's having an amazing year. I don't want to belittle it, but it's not quite on that level. Now, to your question, he's had 8 straight starts of 1 run or fewer. So if that were to continue and you'd string together 12 or 13 and his ERA now is getting to the very low 2s, well, nobody can say anything other than, okay, this guy's got to be in the discussion. He's a top 3 or 4 ERA guy at that point. But it would take another handful of starts without a blip, which feels like it would be really, really hard to do.
All right. So what's making him so good right now?
First off, he legitimately throws 7 pitches. I think sometimes in baseball we hear about these different arms that throw a handful of pitches, right? And it's like, oh, this guy has 5 offerings. And maybe they do, but they don't use them all, and they don't throw them all in all counts. This guy legitimately, Kevin, throws 7 pitches, and he can throw any pitch in any count for a strike. So that's the first thing I would say. He calls his own games. So you've seen PitchCom now where the catcher hits the button on his knee pad, and the pitcher has it in his ear, right, and he just shakes yes, and he goes. Foster Griffin, and this is not unheard of, but it's still a rarity. It's the minority. He calls his own pitches because he's got so many of them that it would take so long for a catcher to learn him like he's learned himself over the 3 years in Japan, where he went into the lab literally and figuratively and built some of these pitches. So
what's his best pitch?
So there's a couple different ways I would answer that.
I'm going to let you finish on what makes him so good, but I'm actually fascinated with this because I had Dave Jagler on the show on Thursday or Friday, and he talked about the 7 pitches, and he actually identified the sweeper as a pitch we didn't even refer to as a sweeper, a few years back. But which of the pitches is his best, and which one is his weakest?
Yeah, so his fastball success rate is best, even though I wouldn't say from a stuff standpoint, it's his best pitch. It plays well because he has so many other things that I think it explodes on people. So it's a 96th percentile run value, which is to say when you grade out all the fastballs in the sport, there are basically like 4% of pitchers who are doing a better job with their fastball. His off speed, so like his changeup also grades out really, really well, 70th percentile. But if you look at like his usage as an example, he throws his cutter about 33% of the time. His 4-seamer, which is the fastball that I'm referencing, playing so well despite a lack of velocity, 16% of the time. The sweeper, 14.5% of the time. Changeup, 10%. Curveball, 10%. Sinker, 2-seam, 10%. And then a split-fingered fastball, about 6%. He's thrown it about 110 times. So that's when I say 7 pitches, it's not like he has them all, but he won't throw them in games. Like he throws all 7 a decent percent of the time. And then just to give you a couple of numbers on like the success rate of those pitches, to give you an idea, the pitch that he's had the most success with, I'd say, the league's hitting 196 off his 4-seamer, 143 off his changeup. There's less dominance, but really the cutter is 203 average against. I think his cutter might be his best pitch. And then the 2-seamer is 219. The only ball that's been really crushed is his curveball has a 280 average against.
I mean, So you should finish what makes him so great. You started with he's got 7 pitches. People talk about having 7 pitches, but no one really does, and he does, and he throws them. But you're starting to say what Dave said, which is he's a thinking man's pitcher, 30 years old. Like there's a lot of experience that he has come to gather over all these years of not being what he's been this year, and he's putting it into play. I don't want to say Greg Maddux style. Maybe you've got a comp, but continue with what's making him so good.
Yes, so that's totally true. He is the ultimate pitcher. That it was only a few years ago where and probably even now, a guy like this I would not miss. Like I would just not sign, because he's not going to blow you away in a bullpen session, and you're just going to look at him and go, well, 7 pitches means you don't have 3 or 4 really good ones, right? And your average fastball velocity, his average fastball is 9th percentile in the sport. The average person throws 95, he throws 91.
Yeah.
And so, that's not going to get you a lot of eyeballs. But he paints. I mean, it's a cliche, but he is a legitimate pitcher. The other thing is he's ahead in a lot of counts, so his chase rate's incredible. It's 80th percentile in the sport in terms of chase rate. He also misses the barrel. Within the zone, guys don't square him up at a 73rd percentile rate, and he doesn't walk anybody. That's the other thing. In today's day and age in baseball with the true outcomes, the big sluggers, you think about guys like James Wood or Kyle Schwarber or Yordan Alvarez, whoever's leading the league in homers at any given moment. These guys walk a ton, right? And they're okay striking out because they're going to get on base with their walks. And that's a lot of the times with pitchers in the Cy Young conversation, you'll see their average against is 215, 225 or whatever. But because they walk some guys occasionally, their ERA might be in the mid-2s. Foster Griffin is 90th percentile in walk rate. He also does a really good job getting a lot of ground balls. He's not a fly ball pitcher in an era where everyone's trying to basically hit the ball in the air with backspin. His ground ball rate is over the 70th percentile. So when you dive into any of his numbers, it's like all the stuff you would want as a pitching coach in one arm.
Yeah, I mean it's so interesting to watch, and it's so unexpected. Obviously, nobody had this guy doing what he's doing, and nobody, Grant, had this team doing what it's done at 50 and 50 through 100 games. So what have you been saying on your show about what you'd like to see them do here in 2 weeks? And obviously the next 2 weeks impact that, but let's just assume that they're hovering at a game or two above 500. What do you think they should do, and what do you think they will do?
Yeah, so that's the right way and a great way to ask the question, Kevin, because the cop-out is always things could change, whatever. But if things stay the same in 2 weeks, I am advocating for what I would call a soft buy. I actually talked to Paul Taboni on the air on MLB Network Radio yesterday, and it sounded like he was open to this idea, which intrigues me. Because typically what we do is we decide who's going to be a buyer or seller based on where they're at, and the teams decide that for themselves. And then we put them into one of the 2 buckets. Taboni pointed out to me on the air yesterday, the Dodgers are a team through the years that have done a really good job selling off assets based on the market that they view it almost like a stock market, right? And they'll see, okay, it's a seller's market for pitching. There's no pitching. So even though we're a championship contender and we're buying in this area where we're deficient, we'll trade Dust May, our pitcher, and we'll get something for him. Now, they have the ability to do that in a way that very few teams do because they have more talent and depth because they spend more money. The Nats don't necessarily have that. But what I would advocate for is a soft buy in areas of major need where they can help themselves long term. I'm doing nothing on the rental market, nothing. So this is not about this season in a nutshell for me, right? But if I can accidentally help myself this year by getting a controllable relief pitcher or a controllable starting pitcher, great. I mean, it's more about the 2 and 3 year plan for me than this season.
And you just hope that they don't turn into Marshawn Lattimore.
Exactly. Yeah. That would, well, you're not giving up enough probably for it to be Marshawn Lattimore either. But I'll give you an example. So the thing I'd be willing to do is deal from my positions of strength and go get something. So they have an incredible amount of minor league talent in the outfield. They're already loaded with young major league talent. James Wood, Dalen Lyle, Dylan Cruz, Jacob Young. They're DHing one of those guys pretty regularly to get them into the lineup as it is. And then even at just the AAA level, you think about it, they've got a guy in Andrew Pinckney who's almost ready. They just DFA'd Robert Hassel, who was in the Soto deal because he couldn't kind of get in where he fit in. They brought over this kid, Christian Franklin, from the Cubs last year. I could go on and on. So, I'm packaging an outfield prospect, not someone who means a ton to me long term, but a good little mid-level prospect in the depth that I have in my organization with a piece to go get something that helps on the pitching side. And I would advocate for trading Luis Garcia, one of the three guys on this team that has over 20 home runs. I think this is a career run. He's turned into Babe Ruth. There have long been questions, and maybe he's, matured and come out of it, but from previous regime, especially about some of the work habits and things. He got sent to the minors at one point to improve his prep for games and to get into better shape. Like, he is the ultimate sell high candidate to me. And a team like Boston would fall all over themselves for a bat in their infield that can play first and second. Not particularly well, but he could stand there and play those positions. And that bat is a huge impact player. I mean, he's got a chance to be a middle of the order stick to put you over the top. So if you coupled like a Luis Garcia with a minor league outfielder, you could absolutely get a controllable starting pitcher. I'd be asking for like Connolly early in the back of that rotation.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Tell me about what's out there. Like, do you have a couple of relievers that you think that they could soft buy?
Yeah, so that's the issue is right now the names that are out there that are known are mostly the rental candidate guys like Aroldis Chapman. Now, Aroldis Chapman's not going anywhere as it is because Boston ended up ripping off 13 consecutive wins. But those are the names that have been floated for some time. So it's about Taboni and his staff kind of evaluating and finding the guy that's got 3 years of control. And I'm not even saying they have to go get someone that on paper you and I, Kevin, look at and we're like, there's your closer. He's been closing in this place. Like San Diego is a good example. I think they're going to trade Mason Miller, who's the best reliever in baseball. You have no business really getting in on Mason Miller. The cost is massive. But what I'm saying is, like, I bring up Connolly early because I think Boston is a really good fit for Garcia. Taboni's already made trades with them. He knows the system inside and out. He scouted, he drafted, he helped develop Connolly early. Like a move like that where I give up a bat from the number one offense in the sport. I bring up Abimelec Ortiz, who drove in 4 runs in the minors yesterday, has played 1 game in the big leagues and doubled and has big league power, came over in the Mackenzie Gore deal. Do I fall off from what Luis Garcia was doing in his month as Ruth? Yes, but he's going to fall off anyway. Now I replace him at first with a left-handed bat from AAA, and I just added a long-term answer in my rotation. Something like that is what I'm advocating for. So everyone wants to say, should they buy, should they sell? I think they should do a little bit of both. I mean, I'll tell you what they should not do. They should not try to win a World Series this year when they really can't, if that makes any sense. So I'm not renting anything, and I'm not giving up blue-chip prospects, but I'm also not going to sit pat. I think it'd be malpractice for Taboni and this front office to not do something to help and provide some reinforcements for this elite offense. It would be silly. It's too hard to be 500 after 100 games. There's teams, Mike Elias would give his left arm right now to have a winning record with his job on the line. You look at the Mets and the money they spend to win, and they can't do it. It's hard to get where they've gotten accidentally. So you can't look at that gift horse in the mouth, in my opinion.
Grant Paulson joining us. It would be nice if 30 days from now, 30 games later, they are sitting there, a game or two out of the third wild card spot. Hell, I mean, they're not that far away from the second wild card spot at this point. All right, switching subjects real quickly. I don't know the answer to this. Were you into the World Cup? Were you and Danny into it? Have you guys talked about it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Danny is a big U.S. soccer fan in general. His kids are on club teams and do all that stuff, so he's got more into soccer. I don't make any bones about this or pretend. I get really into the World Cup, and then I'll see you in 4 years. Like, I'm just not that into it the rest of the time.
Yeah, so the question that I asked for the last hour plus, because I was there yesterday. I actually went to the World Cup.
No way.
But I asked the question, is this the World Cup that ends up being, the spark that turns America on to soccer in a way that we've never been before? It sounds like your answer is the same as mine. I love the World Cup. I don't like soccer. And I don't, tell me 4 years from now when and where, and I'll be there to watch it again.
So we're in the exact same bucket for sure. I do think that there is progress from the standpoint of the sport in the country made at a glacial pace, probably like every 4 years. I do think whether it lingers for all 4, I don't know, but for the next calendar year, our attendance number is going to go up locally for DC United or the Spirit or whatever goes on out in Loudoun County. I would think so. I think there's a bump for sure. How sustainable is it? Maybe is a legitimate question. I have major gripes with the sport, and soccer people hate hearing them, and that's fine. But I overlook them for the unbelievable tournament that is the World Cup. I just find it harder to overlook for games that mean nothing to me between teams in the EPL or what have you.
Yeah, the one thing, by the way, Max, I have not mentioned about the game yesterday, but I've mentioned throughout the tournament. Look, I think a lot of yesterday's game was a snoozer for me. I'm sure there are soccer people out there talking about the brilliance of the Spain defense, and they're the 85 Bears, which is fine. I just still cannot wrap my arms around how the rest of the world doesn't care that they have no clue when the game is going to end. I just don't I don't get that. We do things in tenths of seconds, and that is a bit much. I understand that. But how do you consume a competitive sport with a clock and you don't know when the game is going to end? Like yesterday, just as an FYI, they had the +5 after the second 15-minute extra time period. There were 3 substitutions and 3 rolling arounds on the ground, got shot injuries. And it ended before the 5 minutes. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, not only that, right?
Yeah.
But not knowing when it's going to end as I'm sitting at home is a massive problem for me. There's
massive
one human
problem
being.
for me.
There's one human being in the entire building who does
the ref.
The ref. And there's also, like, essentially the way I heard one broadcaster talk about it in a game was, like, he's not going to blow the whistle during a rush or something, right?
Right.
Well, that's also ridiculous then.
Yeah.
So
I mean, let's let the Lakers finish out this possession, even though the clock has run out, to give them a chance to tie or win the game. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I think we're off on this. The rest of the world considers it to be part of the drama that they don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I've realized this, and I'm not trying to change. Like, everyone takes any of
no,
I'm
not either.
Suggested, and they're like, our game's fine. You guys are the great. I'm just giving my opinion on. A lot of people will ask, why don't you want to watch this, or why can't you get all in? It's the clock thing drives me crazy. The stoppage time is insane. It's not accurate. There's stoppage time and stoppage time that is often unaccounted for. I'm even fine with a running clock. Like, there's a running clock in football for massive portions of the game where ball goes out of bounds, whatever. There's no stopped clock. When it gets down to the nitty gritty, we stop it and we really start focusing in on every second. But that part will never be okay with me. That like for 6 minutes, a guy is hurt and laying there and the game just keeps going. I just can't do that. And there was actually a study done. You should look it up. I remember talking about it on air. I don't remember if it was 4 years ago or 8 years ago, but in a World Cup where someone went through like a bunch of the games and actually counted up all the stoppage time, and it's off by several minutes. I mean, minutes of the game.
It's totally arbitrary, the end of these games. There is no precision to it whatsoever.
Right.
Rest of the world's okay with it.
How are you on the flopping?
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's really emasculating, and it's something that I can totally identify with as an American sports fan, not liking it because it's so fake. It's theatrical. And look, the NBA's got flopping too. It's not rolling around on the ground as if you've been shot by an AK-47 for 7 minutes. And then, by the way, all of a sudden he pops up and he's a part of the game again. I don't like that. Strategically, there are things that this particular summer, I have been interested in. Yesterday, I was with my brother has lived abroad for 3 decades, and he's into the game. And he's tried to get me into the game. Not really tried, because he knows that I'm just never going to love soccer. And he doesn't love it like he loves football and basketball. I'm not saying that. But I said to him, I go, why in a game like this, when somebody gets a yellow card, why wouldn't you immediately replace him? Now, if it's messy, okay, I understand. And hopefully he's going to be smart enough not to get the red card. But you can't afford to play 11 on 10. He's like, that's just not really done. I'm like, that blows me away. How can you put yourself into a position in the World Cup final of being down one man? I know it's not like playing 5-on-4 in basketball. Understood. But still, that was a major difference in a game that was dominant, to begin with. But whatever. Yeah, it sounds like I'd like to see that study. I just, the rest of the world loves it. And to your point, I don't mind the clock just running. But when we get to the end, we need to know exactly when this clock is going to stop. And if there's going to be substitutions or goal celebrations or rolling around injury faking, we've got to stop the clock at that point so you know exactly how much time's left. I think you do, but they don't care, which is fine.
Yeah, I think that's what I've realized. My frustration with it is that the stuff that drives me crazy is like considered to be a feature, not a bug.
It's embraced.
That makes sense.
No,
right. It's like
it is.
Even the flopping is like, there's flopping in other sports. It's not like this, and they just don't care. It's part of it. They're like, don't worry about it. No, I'm worried about it. It stinks to watch.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you were to rank it, I don't understand how, you just, if somebody, gets 2 penalties, maybe maybe they get ejected, but you got to replace them, don't you? I mean, but no, you play 11 on 10. No, I think the clock for me is probably number one. It's because it's part of what I'm interested in our normal sports consumption when they get things wrong or it's a little bit off. Like you mentioned, like there are games in the NFL where, when somebody goes out of bounds, the clock is supposed to stop until the ball's been marked, but it's rarely stopped for the amount of time that it takes for the referee to mark the ball. It's very, very sort of random the way that is handled in every game. But but if we got down to the end and we were 1st and 10 from our own 20 down 3 and we didn't know how much time was left, that would really drive us to the point of being incensed. We couldn't handle it.
It would just be ridiculous. I do want to say though, I'm going to miss it. It was a blast. The fact
I liked it.
NCAA tournament style, it's kind of on every day in the background at any bar you sit down at. I really enjoyed it. And watching the final yesterday, the difference between the game at the highest level with Spain playing and just not to knock like an MLS game or whatever you'll turn on, it is staggering. Like watching Spain was breathtaking. The one-touch passes, and there were a couple sequences where I just texted a soccer buddy of mine, and I'm like, they're unbelievable. Like, this is so fun to watch. So I really did get into it. I thoroughly enjoy it. There's just a couple of things that will keep me from, when it's not the World Cup, caring. That's all.
Yeah. All right. So 8 weeks from today, we'll be talking about what happened in the opener against Philadelphia. Can't wait for those days. Because I actually, in some cases, I think the next month and a half is painful with the preseason conversation and the training camp conversation. But that can be for another day. What are you and Danny going to be talking about as it relates to our football team? Will you do the RG3 thing, or is it Ayuk? What do you got today? Give me something that you guys are going to be talking. Because apparently, I guess I'm coming on with you later on today.
Is the RG3 thing him doing his little documentary doc?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that won't come up on our show, I can tell you.
Why?
I'm just over it. I'm just good on
over him.
Yeah, mostly, honestly. I mean, I had a good relationship with him when I covered the team. We've interacted a little bit here and there since, and I don't know that he's necessarily loved all of the coverage in town of him. It seems and I've essentially tried to keep his name out my mouth because he's not relevant to the football.
Oh, you're reminding me of something. Yes, yeah.
Something.
You're right. Something that happened not that long ago. He was upset with you about. Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
But
yeah.
But I don't feel like I've ever been unfair to him. I just think he, he could make it easy to not talk about him in Washington D.C. and his time playing here and Shanahan, and he doesn't do that when he put on a jersey and do the thing that he did. But no, I mean, unless we have to talk about it, like I would gladly have him on the show and talk ball with him. As I said, I have a decent relationship with him, but I'm not going to re-legislate the Shanahan thing. I will tell you, I think that's silly. You know, if he really thinks he was just, thrown out there and pleaded with to go play football while he was hurt and wanted to sit on the sideline, we remember that day differently.
Yeah, it's not exactly accurate. All right. I'll chat with you later. Thanks.
See you, buddy.
Grant Paulson, everybody. Actually, Ben Standig is available today. I thought he was traveling back from the West Coast in Vegas and wherever else he's been the last week plus, but he's going to jump on with us next. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. We haven't talked about the golf today. Thank you for that, Lanai. Lanai was wondering what I thought of the putt made on 18. It was a phenomenal British Open. I was being transported to the stadium at that point. I was following it on my phone, could not get my YouTube TV up on my phone to watch the golf. Was really rooting for Sam Burns, to be honest with you. Really wanted Sam Burns to win. He's been so close. He obviously got robbed at Oakmont 2 years ago with that ruling on the shot on 17 with the puddled water. But Ryan Fox, New Zealander, shoots 68 final day at Royal Birkdale to eclipse Cam Young, who was in the clubhouse early, Max, at 9 under. Scotty had a chance. Scotty just isn't putting consistently, bottom line. He's still striking the ball like he's always struck it, but he's just not making putts that he needs to make. The Bryson DeChambeau thing from over the weekend was a big storyline. Do we have Ben? Ben can participate in these kinds of conversations. All he does is watch sports. Are you there? And where are you? I thought you said you were traveling back today. Did you decide to come back a day early or stay a day later?
No, I'm back. I took a red eye essentially last night, so I am back, and I did watch the golf as well. So I'm conversed in this conversation. Yes.
So I didn't watch a lot of it over the weekend. I did wake up and watch a couple of hours here and there, but not the finish to both rounds. Bryson DeChambeau, from my standpoint, with what he did on Saturday, on Saturday, right? No, Friday.
Friday, yeah.
That was, I thought, intentional. In my opinion, I think that he was matting down where his backswing was. I think he cheated. Now, even if he didn't do it intentionally, the ruling was the correct one, a 2-shot penalty. When he started with I don't know if I'm going to play, God, I was thinking, don't play. Go ahead, walk out of this tournament and see how that does for you. And then to keep people at that facility until, basically it turned dark on the driving range. This guy is so full of himself. I cannot stand Bryson DeChambeau. I can't stand the whole thing from the beginning. I've just never been a fan. But I did read, or Max sent me to this before the show. Is it true that he asked for President Trump to come in and intervene on the 2-shot penalty?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've seen reported. I don't know for sure, but that's what I've seen reported, and that does fit perfectly with him.
Yeah.
I feel like I was introduced to DeChambeau in a bigger way when he and Brooks Koepka were going at it, and I was very much on Brooks Koepka's
I was
side.
too.
I mean, it did obviously get a little much towards the end, but I was on Koepka's side, and it's been weird that, the Live Tour has basically been just completely off camera for me. And so hearing from some of my younger cousins and nephews and things like that DeChambeau was like a guy that they really like to watch on YouTube. I'm like, what? I don't understand this. And then when he threatened somewhat recently to say that maybe he just gives up on tour golf and cover the majors and just lives on YouTube, I'm just like, dude, get over yourself.
Go ahead and do it.
Go ahead, man. That's not even close to the same exposure. Forget the money. It's not even close to the same anything. But if that's where your head's at, that you're all about you more than understanding the bigger picture, then go for it, man. I'm not a fan.
I mean, he really walks this line of taking a bad reputation and making it so much worse. And I keep wanting him. He's a child, by the way. I mean, in every aspect. And he is completely, narcissistic. I mean, he's the smartest guy in the room. Just ask him. And there's that part of it that's really hard to deal with. But I would have loved to have seen him walk off the stage after Friday. And just because there are people that love him. And there are a lot of young people that love his game. The rest of it, Scotty can't make putts. Sam Burns just can't get over the hump. I think he will eventually. He's very competitive. I love that about him. We're done with the majors for 2026. All right. So I'll ask you, because we've talked a lot about it on the show, and you know that I went to the game yesterday, but overall, the big picture takeaway, will this World Cup over the last 5 weeks, will it be, the event that captivates America, whereby soccer becomes a lot more in this country than it ever has been before?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at this. I think that soccer will continue to become a bigger deal here, but not the soccer that people care about. It's becoming a bigger deal in this country, meaning I don't know if this does much for MLS. And that is ultimately kind of like, it's one thing to say, sure, EPL is on Saturday morning, turn on my television on, whatever it's a Peacock or NBC or whoever has it, and watch it. And that's cool. But, and because of the world we live in now, the world is a much smaller place than it was. And therefore you can see all the people that you just watched play in various ways. But in terms of the MLS, I don't know. I still don't think that that's going to move the needle too much. I know it seems to continue to get some good numbers in certain cities. It's a big deal than you may think, and maybe this is like sort of the DC United bias going in reverse. Like it feels like that group has like fallen way off the radar here. Maybe I'm wrong, and fans can yell at me, but I just don't. It doesn't seem like they're contenders much. I feel like I hear more about the Washington Spirit than I do the DC United most of the time. So I don't know that it moves the needle in that way, but I do think that soccer, sure, in this country continues to get more and more attention, but I think it's still just for things that are happening elsewhere in the world, not for what's happening here.
The other thing, too, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody pointed this out on Twitter to me. The Premier League in particular runs basically with football season here. And they're not going to change their schedule. That just gives it no chance. None. No real chance. Does La Liga, are they all basically fall sports? I don't know the answer to this. It appears as if they are, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like again, I could be wrong too. I feel like the rest of the world runs on the same schedule that we see with the EPL, which is basically like you said, kind of overlaps with football or the traditional bigger sports here in this country once we get past into the winter spring type scenario. Mm-hmm. That's not changing, right? The rest of the world, and this is part of the problem with MLS, is because MLS doesn't operate on that schedule, and then when you have international tournaments or it's just out of whack with the rest of the world, so it just does not fit as easily. So yeah, no, it's a different deal. Also, I think like if we're realistic, there's not much better than daytime sports. And that was one of the draws here for the World Cup, obviously. And you get that with the EPL, right? Because the games are being played,
right?
Even if it's
I mean, we have them on in the mornings during the fall, I think.
Right. And obviously, it's a different type of audience. You can't get, you're not going to have the biggest group in that way, but you still will have a pretty good following of people who'd rather be looking at that than whatever's on their laptop for work or whatever else they're doing. So yeah, I do think. I mean, I think the key for this country on some level is that they've got. I mean, the U.S. needs to be a better product. Obviously, it was really it was a lot of fun for most of the World Cup, but in the end, it's just the same old story. We're just completely outclassed by the rest of the world, and I just don't think that it is really the sport. Despite the fact that it is obviously the most popular sport in the world, it's still not in the bloodstream here. It is not something that people just automatically gravitate towards, innately almost. And I just think until that happens, which I don't know why it hasn't happened. I think there's that's a bigger conversation, but until that happens, I just don't know that soccer is going to advance to the point that people maybe think it should based on how the rest of the world treats it.
Ben Standig is joining us. He is our Washington Commanders team insider on this show, at Ben Standig on X. Subscribe to his Substack, where he covers the team, covers the Wizards as well. So it's a 2-for-1 deal, and it's only a couple of bucks a month, and it's totally worth it. So, all right. Kind of out of the football discussion over the weekend, we're 8 weeks away from having a conversation about a real game. And we are about a week away from the training camp shenanigans for a month and a half or so. Other than the obvious, Jaden Daniels and his injury history and what will 2026 produce, what's the next biggest storyline when we get to a week from, tomorrow or Wednesday?
Well, I mean, there's still, there's some injuries we still need to know about. Dorrance Armstrong, Trey Amos, and some other guys who, didn't participate at all. When are they coming back? I have no sense that it's going to be anything that's going to linger into the season. So it's maybe more just a matter of, are they available day one of camp, or, it takes 2 weeks, or not until after preseason, or what have you. So I think that's an obvious one, but, they've got enough depth that, they're not missing, other than like Trey Amos. I think they're, they're fortified until some of these guys get back, especially on the defensive line. But I think the big story is, and this is unfortunately something that for our purposes is just not going to get known until the season starts, and that is how do the teams play on both sides of the ball with the new coordinators? Yeah. Because obviously, we can talk about talent till we're all blue in the face, but it is also about using the players and knowing how to use them, when to use them, what's the best way to maximize their abilities, et cetera. And, until we see it, you can't say for sure. We're not going to see anything until the games turn real for the most part. In training camp, we'll see a few things here and there, but not in terms of the full-blown strategic aspect. So I think ultimately that's going to just, when we ask the question, you're going to ask me at some point, down the line, what's going to be their record? And so much of it is going to hinge, beyond the injuries, is going to hinge on how well do we think that these guys, David Blau and Durante Jones, are going to do with their jobs, and not questioning that they won't do well, but that's the big unknown. We don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this time last year, and I don't even think it's debatable, that we were entering into the most anticipated season since probably 2013, off of RG3's 2012 season. Like, there was just legitimate excitement and belief that this team had a chance to go, to win a lot of games and to go deep, et cetera. Obviously, it didn't play out for obvious reasons. And I think that this year is just a big unknown. And I think we've had a lot of years like that have been an unknown, although we really knew deep down, if we were really honest with ourselves, that as long as Dan Snyder was the owner of the team, it was more likely than not going to end poorly. But this one is a big, who the hell knows? Can RG3, there I did it again. Can Jaden Daniels be healthy enough and play 17 games? That's number one. What will the offense look like with David Blau? What will the defense look like with Durante Jones? All of these new players, how will they come together? Will there be chemistry, or will it be hard to synchronize everything? Maybe it's a year away. It really is a total unknown, and that's why their over-under sitting there at 7.5. It's not the worst, and it's far from the best, because I don't think anybody really has a good handle on Washington.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, this is part of what people tune into you to get your view as to what's going to happen, and they, listen to me or read me for the same. But anybody who's going to tell you to me right now that they've got a feel for whatever is going to happen, I mean, God bless them. I wish they would have told me some of that, some info when I was in Vegas betting on some things, but what was going to happen, because I just hard to know.
Did you make any futures bets when you were there? Okay.
No, I did not. I didn't. I actually somewhat stayed away from the sports book outside of the World Cup. Although I did, and a little bit on the British final round. But I mean, again, like, we can point to the defense should be more talented, right? They've got more guys, especially in the front seven, with a lot of potential and a lot of juice and a lot of energy, and the type of players that we could make for some exciting football. But we'll see. Even a guy like Adafe Owe, who was obviously they paid him a lot of money and he's looked pretty good. It's still, even that is a little bit, we'll see, because it's a different kind of a role. He's being asked to be sort of the main guy, whereas, say with the Chargers, he had Khalil Mack and some other guys. So how does that play out? And it's also just a different system, right, for him and everybody else. So you never know how these things are going to go. And especially because it is all brand new, it makes it just that much more complicated. So yeah, it's really going to be fascinating to see. I think, again, especially defensively, I'm really intrigued to see what happens. And with David Blau on offense, it's a big swing that Dan Quinn took to go down that route. There's a lot of reasons to believe that it can work, but even if we just say ultimately it does work, it doesn't mean year one it's going to be rocking and rolling. So We'll see. Again, like you said, Jaden's health comes down to so much of it. We spent so much time discussing the wide receiver 2 spot or that room in general. But, we go back to the first year. None of us were like, wow, what a great room that is. But Jaden Daniels made it all work. And if he can do what he does, then to make this room work, then we won't be worrying about whether who they got as that second receiver. And ultimately, that's going to be key. How is he going to execute David Blau's plans and so on? So it all starts with Jaden, but then the coordinators, I think, to me, are next up.
Yeah, and as it relates to the unknown, I mean, even especially when you've added so many players, they added, top 3 in money, the number 1 team in new players added to their roster during this past offseason. You're just not sure which ones are going to fit and which ones aren't. I mean, we thought the corner from Cincinnati, Jackson, we thought he was going to be a good fit. Terrible fit. And, somebody like Olamide Zaccheaus, way under the radar, will even make the team, big contributor. You just aren't sure which one of these, or hopefully, which group of these is going to perform well and which one or two won't. But it'll probably surprise. I still think Nick Cross has a chance to be the guy with the biggest free agency new addition floor. Sounds like a question for a show tomorrow or the next time you're on, but I got to go. Thanks, as always.
Always, man. See you.
That'll do it for today. Back tomorrow. Chris is up next. Is he in?
He is.
All right. Can't wait to hear what he says about soccer. That's next.